First item on our agenda is a roll call. We have Lisa Buck, we have Judd McIntosh, myself, Phil Ruck, we've got Dave Thompson, we've got Mr. Beckett and Mr. Costello on the end. Next up is acceptance of the agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Very good. Any comments, additions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the agenda? It's unanimous. Moving on, next up, approval of the minutes of May 16th, 2018. Very well prepared again. Can I have a motion for the minutes?
So moved.
Very good.
Second.
Very good. Any discussion, edits, comments? I read through them briefly. Krista's not here,
I
though.
know, I'm waiting for
Just
her.
dive right in. She's not coming, I assume?
I guess not. I
Okay.
haven't heard.
Very good. No further comments? All those in favor of the minutes as presented? All right, we have two items in new business. The first item is a site plan application of, I apologize, but I believe it's Michelle? Yes. Oh, there we go. Good. Michelle Potvin for a home business, which is a type of home occupation. The proposed home business is a counseling office within an existing owner-occupied residence at 3 Forest Hill Terrace, identified as tax map 19-3, lot 32 in the medium-density residential zoning district. Could we have you come up and describe the project a little bit before? Yeah. Speak into the microphone, because this is all on the record, please.
Okay. What do you want me to?
Just describe the project a little bit for the board. That would be helpful, in
Okay.
addition to what you've submitted.
Okay, so all I'm asking for is just to be able to do some counseling out of my home, maybe 4 to 5 hours a week. Can you speak up? Speak. Hard to hear. Okay, sorry. I'm a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
So I would like to have 4 or 5 counseling people come to my house and to do counseling there.
Good. Very good. So you've been working with the staff, and you put everything in your application? Good.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions before we dive in?
Yeah, you can ask me lots of questions.
Okay. Anything right off the bat? No. All right, I do have a question for staff.
Yes.
And based on my review of both items that we have tonight, these items seem like the type that when we redid our comprehensive plan and ordinance change, these two both seem like things that this board does not need to see. So I just wondered if you could elaborate on that, because our ordinance, certain home occupations, and I'm just trying to remember the threshold, because we haven't seen enough of them since the change, that, you know, some of these could be approved at a staff level. So if you could just explain to me why we're here tonight. 'Cause
Right. So I believe the home business is
home business,
a little
okay.
different than a home occupation, or because it involves clients actually coming to the household.
Okay.
Which clients coming to a household in a certain number, at a certain threshold, that could create, a different feel of the use in the neighborhood. If this is in
Okay.
a medium density residential district, then if a person had a certain number of people coming to their home, it might not feel like a residential district so much anymore as a commercial 2 district or something like that.
Very good.
There could be other parking concerns or nuisance issues that come up, so.
So I knew we identified home business. I just,
Okay.
these two seem rather simple, and we'll address the first one, so. So thank you. I just had a question for staff. Could you just give us a quick synopsis? Based on the review you provided, there are really no issues with this? No parking, no signage, no nothing?
Not that I could see. Michelle indicated that she wasn't planning on putting in any signage. As far as parking goes, she indicated that
Yeah.
there were only an expected, she said, 4 or 5 hours of counseling a week with, a few clients per week.
Yeah.
Even according to the ordinance, even if you consider Forest Hill Terrace Road a minor road, that still allows up to 10 vehicle trips per day for a home business. So her number of a few per week doesn't really indicate that there's going to be any issue with too many people coming in. There's 2 parking areas on the lot, so parking shouldn't, and she also has no other employees there as far as I know, correct? Right, so between one spot for herself and at most 2 clients being there, I would assume at any one time.
Right.
There shouldn't be any parking concerns.
Right, I was just going through, no employees, no new construction, no alterations, no signage, few clients, no use of commercial vehicles, no nuisance, no outdoor storage. So, I didn't find much, so I guess questions from the board for the applicant before we open the public hearing and just let other people?
I'm good.
Not for me.
I'm gonna open up the public hearing, then invite members of the audience to step up, whether in opposition or whether you're for. State your name, please.
Where do you want to set my?
Right up there,
Oh, do I-
please. Yeah,
do I
just
need-
state your name and
My name is Rodney Smith.
up there.
Do I go sit down?
Okay. Again, my name is Rodney Smith. I'm representing my mother, Rhoda Smith, who lives at 16 Forest Hill Terrace. Okay, I have several questions. Some business plan related. You'd said, sir, you up to a couple of clients a day on site?
Not every day.
Wait just a second. If we could just direct the questions to us,
Okay.
and we'll note them, and
Okay.
then we'll follow up with her, because if she's not speaking into the mic, it might not make it on the record. So
All right.
if you just identify your concerns, and then
Yeah.
we'll follow up.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. My first question revolves around business days and hours. What are they going to be, especially evening hours? I have a question. Are there similar businesses in the area?
Mhm.
And if so, where are they? And have there been any issues with those other businesses as far as traffic on the streets, hours, anything like that? So, and my next question, business related, is when would operations for this business commence? Okay, I have also, in a different area, some safety and security concerns that I'd like to get on the record, if I could, please. The first is the types of type of counseling that's going to occur, and the clients. Are there clients with criminal backgrounds, and especially for drug offenses? And if so, how many of those clients does Ms. Potvin expect she's going to have? Are there any who are sex offenders, or any with violent tendencies?
Mhm.
If the answer is to any of them is yes, my question is that something that we would want to introduce into a residential neighborhood? Okay, there are children in the neighborhood, and there are elderly living alone. And then along those lines is, what responsibility does Ms. Potvin have with regard to the behavior of her clients while they're in the neighborhood? Okay, and I guess finally the question would be, why here? Why in that neighborhood? Why not in an office space downtown? And if this is not approved, what's her backup plan?
Okay.
And that's all the questions I have, sir.
Very good. Thank you very much. If we could get you to step up to the mic, and some of these are for town. Listening to the concerns, I'm not sure how far we can go in terms of types of clients and certain information in his questions. I'm not sure
There's
what the
nothing-
purview of the board is, if we can even ask those, so.
Right, I'm not aware, there's nothing in the ordinance that specifies that we have to restrict the home business based on any kind of classification of the clients. So
Okay.
I'm not aware of any steps
I just don't want to step over the line, but some of those, I don't know if it's, privileged information or whatever terminology you might use. Alright.
I'm not
Okay.
aware of it.
Very good. So, first up, if we could just get some feedback. I think you mentioned 2 to 3 clients a week is what I thought I
No,
recalled.
4 to 5.
4 or 5,
Yeah.
okay, 4 or 5 per week.
Yeah.
Okay. What are your proposed business days and hours, and do you propose any evening hours?
No evening hours, and the only day that I was planning on seeing people is on Fridays from 9 to 3 while my kids are at school.
1 day per week for 4 to 5 clients. Okay. So Friday from 9 to 3, you said. correct? Okay, similar businesses in the area, I don't recall all the home occupations.
I
I mean, you haven't been here long enough.
There's just one
Mr. Mylan might be able to. Okay,
also on Forest Ave. Well, he actually just stopped doing it for a little while, but it
right,
was right
that's
on.
the second. Is that the
No,
okay.
no, on
yeah.
Forest Ave. The second application's on Park Street
Okay,
tonight.
that's, yeah.
But there was one home office that was doing therapy sessions, but he just stopped doing that this year.
Okay.
Hi,
You know
good
any
evening.
other?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Dave Mylan. I'm the Director of Community Development. And we have several of these types of offices around town. Geographically, so they're located in all throughout in neighborhoods as home businesses. The only one that I can think of as far as a complaint would have been a parking complaints that they were exceeding what the board had authorized them. And so we had to have a conversation about, reducing the number of parking. There were parking violations there, but, and that was taken care of. That's the only other thing. Other than that, we haven't received any complaints. And I would just follow up with, as Kyle mentioned to you, as far as, what type of clients an applicant is seeing is, frankly, is irrelevant, and it is out of bounds. That no
that
different
was
than
my
if
thought.
you were asking to put in a restaurant that you could say, well, like a McDonald's can go in, but a Burger King can't. So it's either, you allow this type of operation or you don't, so.
Thank you. All right, so from our understanding, so that if the only concern was parking, but you are operating right now, 1 day a week is what you propose?
Yep.
1 client,
At a time.
probably a maximum of 1 vehicle, I would assume then, so.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, when do you propose to start?
As soon as you guys say yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Safety concern, again, we're gonna steer clear of the types of counseling, unless there's something that you care to offer.
I don't mind answering the question. I think that mental health is really frightening for people, so I don't mind answering it if they want me to, and it's okay with you guys.
I would suggest not, to be
we-
honest.
Yeah, I don't think,
I
we-
think
I don't think
it's-
we need to go there.
It doesn't
Yeah, I
seem.
don't
It's an
think so.
allowed use.
Right, it's an
Yeah.
And
allowed
so
use. There's
then
nothing that specifies it
We're
has to.
we're gonna steer clear from that. And responsibility for clients, I'm not sure, again, the same theory applies, that I'm not sure how far we can go with that. While they're in their house, I'm assuming you would wanna be responsible for them during that time, but, after they leave the property, I'm not sure. Any comments on that?
I think there's not much we can do about anybody's behavior.
Right. And I missed the last, so there was responsibility for clients.
This is the backup plan.
Yeah.
Okay,
And why here?
Why here in the backup plan?
okay. Just out of curiosity, why you're choosing, you live there, again, you said while your kids are at school is
Yeah, and
what I
so
heard, but,
that would be easy. I'd take the girls, so they both go to school here.
Yep.
I'd take the girls to school, go home, see a few clients, make a little bit of extra money, and then they'd come home.
okay,
Easy peasy.
very good. Other questions from the applicant, other questions from the public? By all means, step right up.
I have just a couple of questions.
Can we get
Um,
your name?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Can you-
Jillian Rose,
Can
and
you
I live.
pull that mic down a little bit? Thank you,
All right, like that?
perfect.
My name is Jillian Rose, and we live across the road at 2 Forest Hill Terrace. And one of the questions would be, might the number of clients increase over time, or will it stay at just 4 or 5 a week on Fridays? And the second question is, would there be any signs to indicate where to go? Because we live at 2 Forest Hill Terrace, and when the house was for sale, there was a sign up in the corner. It's on town property, but people kept thinking we were selling our house because it was there. So we would not want a sign on the corner. That would be a bad thing as far as we're concerned, because
Okay.
people kept asking us, is your house for sale? And we'd say no. People would come to the door wanting to look at the house. So that was the other question.
Okay.
Thank you.
very much. All right, you're up again. One of the things I believe you addressed in the proposal, and that you do not propose any signage, is that
Yeah, no
correct?
sign.
Okay. And the other one, what do you anticipate for perhaps an increase in clients and, either number or number of days?
Well, in 8 years, my student loans are paid off, and I no longer will have to work at Acadia. So maybe at that time, I might want to do full-time private practice, but I don't know. By then, my youngest will have graduated high school. So I don't have any plan right now for doing anything different.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Other comments, questions? Yep.
I'm Pastor Dave Natale from the Faith Baptist Church right here in Arno, and I was notified about this meeting, and I'm certainly in favor of helping people in need. However, it seems like you're being awful vague about the kind of clients that are going to be in that area. We have a lot of children, coming in and out of our church. And we have a playground there, and I'm just concerned about the type of clientele as well. And if you're going to be that vague that you aren't going to specify, I understand the need to protect your clients, but we would like to know what kind of people are going to be in there. I think one of the men asked about sexual offenders, and yes, that's a concern of ours. And so, I think you need to be more specific about honing in on that. We'd like to know.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like some input from, town staff. Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Let me offer that there are currently laws pertaining to where certain clientele can be and where they can't be. The business owner will know, or the service provider will know whether their customers or clients are allowed to be there or not. And frankly, there's a process in place that would prohibit that. So I'm not sure that we're necessarily concerned as from a process standpoint regarding that. But I would like to add that it's a public hearing. So if the applicant wants to provide any information to help maybe the neighbors feel comfortable, she's certainly able to do that if she wants to. She's not required to, she doesn't need to, but I would emphasize that if she said earlier, if she wanted to offer or answer some of those questions, that's certainly her prerogative to be able to do that. So I would just offer that, to her. But the answer is that there, as I said, there are processes in place. There are folks around every day that have limitations as to where they can be. We often, the police department, others know, where they are and where they're not supposed to be. And so when there are issues, they are brought to the attention of the neighborhood, and folks are notified, within the neighborhood. So from a business process perspective, I think we've got it covered.
Right,
Is
and
that
our
fair?
ordinance, again, does not specify the types of clients. It's a general category
Right, there's no
for
language.
what's an allowed use. as a home occupation.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, very good.
I failed to mention that Rhoda Smith is a widow who is a member of our church. And she's right across the street from this proposed business. And so I have that responsibility too. As a pastor of a widow, her son is here from New Jersey for this meeting because of his interest and the family concerns. And so I just wanted you to know that I also have another purpose of making sure, because the scripture is very clear, that we are to take care of the fatherless and the widows. And so that is the other reason that I am here, to make sure that there is safety for her.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you've heard some of the concerns. This board is not gonna ask you to come up and respond to some of the questions that you've heard. But I guess, as Mr. Mylan said, are we okay? Thoughts on that? Do you want to allow the applicant, based on what Mr. Mylan said, to provide more information? Or,
I think if she's willing, she should be allowed to, yes.
She's allowed to, but not.
what are your thoughts, Jed? Yeah.
I feel like in some ways, people here might not understand our role.
Correct.
And you have your 2-minute rundown. Maybe you give the 2-minute rundown of just saying that we have.
Right. So this board, it's a volunteer board, and we are tasked with, looking at applications and figuring out whether they meet town ordinances that have been developed over time and approved by the council. We're not here to create new requirements. We are here to look at what's on the books and whether applicants meet certain standards, but there are limits as to the questions, and you've heard, example of one of them is how far we can go in our line of questioning. Typically, it's, do you meet the ordinance? Can you satisfy those requirements as laid out? But we don't have a lot of, room for interpretation. It's what was developed, by and approved by the council. And that's what we have to go on. This isn't an opinion whether we like a certain project or not. The rules are on the books, and that's what we work with. Again, public hearings are a part of this process, so we appreciate the comments and taking your time to come out here. And again, so that's what we're bound by. But the question is, and we're a little bit undecided, I think, as to whether we even need the applicant to respond. But
yeah, I would say she certainly does not need to.
Yeah.
If you want to, I think I'd be okay with it, but you certainly don't need to.
Okay.
It's not.
Okay. So no pressure from this board, but you've heard a bunch of concern from neighbors and a pastor. So I'll leave it up to you. You're standing at the mic, so what do you have
I'm
to say?
sorry. Nobody answered my question as to where a sign would be.
There is no sign.
Because
No signage, no proposed signage for this project.
Oh, okay. And the other question I meant to ask was, would this affect, being on a small street, having a business there, would it affect the value of one's house and property?
Again, when we consider, one of the limitations that this board has is, that's not one of the review criteria is how certain, applications, certain businesses are going to affect property values. That's just not a direction where we can go.
It's not something, okay.
So, question, I guess the ball's in your court, by all means.
Yeah, so I don't mind answering your question as far as the types of clients.
I apologize, could you either jack up the mic, just make sure that these comments are on the record?
I feel kind of famous. Yeah, so I don't mind answering the questions. I know mental health can be a little bit frightening for people. I've been a therapist for a decade this year, actually, and in the entire time that I've been a therapist, I've never seen a sexual offender, and I've never worked with anybody that had anything other than a minor traffic violation. And I do want to maintain a good relationship with you guys. It's very important to me. And it is also my home and my children. So my plan, I'm at the university 1 day a week right now. And I have a lot of people who are interested in seeing me due to insurance reasons through a private practice. So my plan is just to see students and actually mostly employees from the university. So I don't know if that helps. I don't plan on taking severe diagnosis or anybody that would be a danger to themselves or others. Just very, I guess I'd call it minor to moderate diagnosis, like anxiety, depression, those kinds of things.
Thank you very much. Other comments from the public?
I'm Christina Griffin Eichelberger, and I don't live around the area, but I support her.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Because I do suffer from mental illness, but I've never harmed anybody. I've never harmed myself. But she's doing a good deed helping the people that are in the workforce at the school so they can stay from harming themselves and harming the public. But for us to say no to her because of that is not right, because these people need help. Some of them can't get it because, like she said, insurance purposes. So if what I'm saying here helps you guys make that decision, that's why I came up here, because she should be able to do this business. And I don't think she would, I'm pretty sure she thought of her kids first before she thought about bringing people into her home.
Thank you very much. Other comments before I close the public hearing? Last call. All right, public hearing is closed. I believe we've had the applicant. I appreciate all your responses. We've heard several comments, based on what I heard toward the end. It seemed to address some of the concerns, but I'd like some thoughts. We'll start with you, Lisa.
I think it's a fine idea,
Okay.
and I support her plan.
Second.
Yep, I support it.
I would support it as well.
The application was pretty straightforward, and the fact that there's no signage should be satisfying for many of the neighbors.
Very good. Thank you. And we do have a proposed findings of fact to consider before we move any farther.
Yeah.
And again, these are for discussion purposes only. As we review these, we can change them. Remember to bring my glasses. And these are just proposed findings of fact for the home occupation permit for a home business by Michelle Potvin at 3 Forest Hill Terrace, tax map 19.3, lot 32, in the medium-density residential district, dated July 18th, 2018. Pursuant to Article 4, Section 18-106, and Article 5, Section 18-131 of the Orono Code of Ordinances, the Orono Planning Board has considered the application of Michelle Potvin for a home occupation permit to operate a home business counseling office at 3 Forest Hill Terrace, tax map 19, lot 32, located in the medium-density residential district. Based on all evidence presented by the applicant, reviewing agencies, town departments, and the public, the Orono Planning Board has found the following. Number 1, requirements of the district, that the subject property located in the medium-density residential district is a legal lot under the Orono Land Ordinance, and therefore qualifies for a home occupation permit as a matter of right under Article 4, Section 18-106. Are there any concerns with that? Hearing none. Number 2, compliance with town ordinances and codes. Subsection 1, that a home occupation is an allowed use in the medium-density residential district. And number 2, that the application as submitted complies with Article 5, Section 18-131, which outlines the performance standards for a home occupation. based on what we've heard this evening, are there any issues with that? Very good. With the findings of fact and no changes, I think we're ready at this time, unless there are further comments, I think we're ready for a motion.
Before the motion, should we just confirm that we all agree on these 3 conditions? We just got 3 conditions.
Okay. These are recommendations for Michelle Potvin. That should the board choose to approve this request, staff recommends the following conditions, and we could read these into the
Yep.
motion.
I'm good with them, if
Yep.
everyone's good with them.
All right, so these were presented?
Uh,
Often these go just, from a procedural standpoint, they're often in the review packet. So we just go off of that. I don't mind them separately, but I think that's how, I guess what we're used to. But you're up, Jed.
I move that we approve the request of Ms. Potvin for a home occupation at 3 Forest Hill Terrace, tax map 19-3, lot 32, with the following 3 conditions. Number 1, if the applicant decides to add signage, they shall submit the plans to the code enforcement office. That would then be subject to review by the planning board. Number 2, the applicant shall utilize no more than 4 off-street parking spaces for the home business. If additional parking is required, and according to the ordinance, the business no longer qualifies as a home business. And condition number 3, the home occupation shall not create a nuisance to the neighborhood, and the home occupation permit shall be subject to review by the planning board if any complaint is filed with the code enforcement office and/or the police or no police department.
One quick question before we have a motion, before I get a second. On the signage issue, is there a minimum signage that would not require review by the planning board as stated? Is that the 2 square feet?
Yes, the ordinance
just to-
allows for 2 square feet.
Correct. So as I saw, it says if the applicant decides to add signage. So I think, above what is allowed. So maybe a clarification there?
Clarification on item number 1 of the conditions, if the applicant decides to add signage, they're allowed to add signage that meets the ordinance. If they want to add signage of any different square area or area, they'll submit their plans to the code enforcement office. It would then be subject to review by the planning board.
Under pressure.
Struggled
Good
with
work.
that one.
Good
Yes,
work. Good work.
struggled.
All right, we have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Good. Next up, we have another home occupation. Public hearing, this is a site plan application of Dr. Charles Hanson for a home business, which is a type of home occupation. The proposed home business is a psychiatric office within an existing owner-occupied residence at 52 Park Street, identified as tax map 20-1, lot 1 in the medium-density residential zoning district. Can I have the applicant or representative step up and tell us about what is proposed, please?
Good evening, Mr. Ruck, members of the board. My name is Andrew Hamilton. I'm an attorney at Eaton Peabody. I was asked by this very gracious young woman, Tara Shelley, who works with Dr. Hanson, to be of assistance in filing this application and appearing for Dr. Hanson. He has a number of offices that say on the front template sign, this one's 14 inches by 3 inches, C. Hanson, MD. He's a psychiatrist. He has living space at 52 Park Street, but he also lives in Massachusetts. He was not able to be here tonight. He asked me to be here in his stead. So as Mr. Ruck has done before other boards as an agent for the applicant, I appear here before you as an agent of the applicant. I'm not sure that there's a lot more than the really very thorough staff report that was prepared. You've already had most of the detail concerning the standards from 18-131 of your ordinance applicable to home occupations designated as home businesses. This is a home business. I do share the perspective of the chair that there may have been a time where these really didn't need to come before the planning board. There's a specific reason why a waiver request was filed for site plan review. This business has been, this professional office has been in place since 1998. There are no changes to the building or interior that are proposed. What happened was Dr. Hanson, who is now 77, has a bookkeeper who passed 2 years ago from a bout with cancer. There was no reapplication. This is what I think is in the nature of a grandfathered use at this location. But because with the support of Kyle Drexler and your former planner, Evan Rickert, we walked through the standards, and we had no issue with meeting these standards. We meet each and every standard. We're happy to be before you tonight to answer any questions you may have about the application. But I've not seen a better templated and more thorough staff review. Usually you see thorough staff reviews, but I like the template because the ordinance standards are right in the body of the staff review and how the applicant meets the standards. I could regurgitate every one of the ordinance standards and the responses, but I won't, because they're all laid out in the staff memo. So I would say good job to the staff. They make this board's they make this board's review, I think, a lot easier. But again, both Tara and I are present to answer any questions that you may have. But we're confident and comfortable that we meet each and every standard for a home occupation that, under your new definitions, is now defined as a home business. I will say, as a professional, I don't quite get why the town is saying that a professional office should be viewed as a home business. We don't typically view them that way, but I'm not going to take issue with the definition. It is what it is. But for all purposes of the standards at 18-131, we meet those. Dr. Hanson appreciates this board's time and your review, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I would like to second that comment. I think Dave's the senior member on this board, and when I started, it seems like a long time ago, the process has been improved tremendously. The review packet, we used to spin our wheels a lot, but so that's greatly appreciated.
I'd love to take complete credit, but.
But it makes things go a lot smoother. So we just heard a description again. This is just something that's been around for a long time, and a deadline was missed. So they're here before us. Any questions for the applicant? Again, seems pretty straightforward. Any questions from the board before we open up a public hearing?
None for me.
I was struggling with that too. So no questions. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Invite people to step up to the mic. Comments, concerns? All right. Yeah, and interesting. A lot of similarities to our last discussion. Last call. Close the public hearing. Further discussion from the board? All right, I believe we have proposed findings of fact for this application as well. They're coming this way. All right, before us, we have the proposed findings of fact for a home occupation permit for a home business by Charles Hanson, 52 Park Street, tax map 20.1, Lot 1 in the medium-density residential district dated July 18th, 2018, pursuant to Article 4, Section 18-106, and Article 5, Section 18-131 of the Orono Code of Ordinances. The Orono Planning Board has considered the application of Charles Hanson for a home occupation permit to operate a home business. This is an office of psychiatry at 52 Park Street, tax map 20, Lot 1, located in the medium-density residential district. Based on all evidence presented by the applicant, reviewing agencies, town departments, and the public, the Orono Planning Board has found the following. Number one, requirements of the district. That the subject property located in the medium-density residential district is a legal lot under the Orono Land Ordinance, and therefore qualifies for a home occupation permit as a matter of right under Article 4, Section 18-106. Are there any issues with that?
Nope.
Hearing none. Number 2, compliance with town ordinances and codes. Subsection 1, that a home occupation is an allowed use in the medium-density residential district. Number 2, that the application as submitted complies with Article 5, Section 18-131, which outlines the performance standards for home occupation. Are there any issues with that?
None.
Very good. So, with those proposed findings of fact and no amendments to them, I think we are again ready for a motion. And we do have, again, as Judd said before, we have recommendations before us. I guess you can read them into the record, we'll review them, and then we'll change as
Hopefully
necessary.
not correct them on the fly.
Putting you on the spot.
I move that we approve the application by Charles Hanson for a home occupation permit to operate a home business, a psychiatry office out of 52 Park Street, Orono, with the following 3 conditions. 1, the applicant shall have no more than 4 renters that are unrelated in the structure at any given time, as according to the definition of family in Article 2, Section 18-31. There may be no more than 5 unrelated individuals in the dwelling unit. If the structure is rented out to 5 unrelated individuals, then the home occupant permit shall be revoked. Number 2, the home business shall have no more than 2 employees present at the dwelling unit at any given time. Condition number 3, parking for the home business shall take place only in the parking area on the lot and in the 4 allowed off-street parking spaces. If problems due to parking arise and a complaint is filed to the Code Enforcement Office and/or the Orono Police Department, then the home occupation permit would be subject to review by the planning board, and a decision would be made whether to allow the home occupation to continue.
Thank you, Judd. We have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Very good. Next up, old business. None. Next up, discussion. Anything to discuss? No? Last up is adjournment. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Very good. Second?
I second.
Further discussion? No? All those in favor? Anything in August?
Nothing yet.
Nothing so far. Okay. Nothing on the table. All right.
Nothing's really
Okay.
come to life at the moment.
How's it going so far?
It's good. Starting to feel more comfortable.
Yeah. We're pretty easy. Everybody's